What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of our GAGS Goals Updates. It's the Road to 198 series. This is your first time stopping by. I'm Coach Gaglione. I'm a powerlifting coach and a competitive powerlifter. I've been involved in the sport going on 13 years now. I've been as heavy as 340 pounds, and I've lost over 100 pounds and kept it off. Weight's been kind of fluctuating in like the mid 230 range right now. Next contest will be at 220, but I do plan on, again, dropping down to the 198 class within the next year or so. If I could do it toward the end of the year, that'd be great, but I'm not in any rush. That's kind of where I started my powerlifting journey when I was 18 years old. And my plans to kind of return back to that weight class at some point. But all in all, things have been going good with the training, so I'm just kind of chronicling my training till my next meet. My next competition will be April 6th in York, Pennsylvania. It's an RPS meet, local competition. Just looking to get a total at 220. I did not successfully do that last November. I did have a pretty decent squat and a pretty decent deadlift, narrowly missing my third attempts at the slingshot record breakers meet. So what I kind of elected to do was just kind of let my body try to maintain my body weight a little bit, so I can kind of put some strength back on, put some muscle back on, and then just have like a little bit more of a good performance. I think it's important, especially when someone's been dieting for a really long time and been in a caloric deficit for a long time. It's important to kind of take some breaks from time to time, but still have some goals. So I'm definitely been trying to let my weight kind of maintain a little bit. I haven't been actually training as often as far as with accessories and things like that. So I've been training a little bit less, but still intensely, and just kind of working around my schedule. I was in California and Virginia, New York City, New Jersey. I've been in a bunch of different places in 2019 already, as far as with coaching events and seminars and learning, traveling on planes, long car rides. And next week we'll be going to the XPC finals at the Arnold. It's pretty exciting this year actually, because usually at the XPC finals have been like kind of an off-site at the Road Center. This week we got news that it's actually going to be on the Rogue main stage, which is very, very exciting. So more people will be exposed to equipped lifting, and more people will be exposed to raw with wraps lifting, as well as the monolift division. So I think that's really cool for me, because those are some of I personally like the equipped lifting. That's kind of like I grew up with, watching old VHS tapes of Chuck Vogopol and the West Side Guys. That's kind of how I kind of got started in the sport. So it's just kind of cool to kind of see that some of that kind of come back a little bit. I do think raw lifting will continue to kind of dominate and grow faster than the equipped lifting, but I just think it's cool that people have other options and just get exposed to different kind of methods and different things, different aspects of the sport. Because I just think it allows more people to kind of, compete. And it gives people different options, and I'm all about having options. So it's pretty cool things. I'm excited for that. That being said, I'm going to be training I trained very hard this past weekend. I'm going to be training pretty hard this week, because I'm probably not going to get any meaningful training. Whether I try to, it is possible I might try to, maybe pop into West Side here and there to get some training in, maybe say hello to Mr. Simmons. Once again, I've visited there a couple of times. There's some videos on our kind of YouTube channel of Louis Simmons teaching me like the chair deadlift, for example, and things like that. Learned a lot from him, and I definitely highly recommend, if you are a power lifter, I think it's kind of your due diligence to at least visit West Side at least once, just because of all like the records and kind of, he's Louis Simmons, for those that don't know, is again the coach and the kind of owner of West Side Barbell, and he popularized a lot of these methods with like bands and chains and the conjugate system, the concurrent methods, and not just for powerlifting and equipped lifting, but also for a lot of great athletes as well, track people, track athletes, fighters, football players, etc. And obviously he's been a lot of his stuff has been heavily involved with CrossFit athletes as well. If you look at what Laura Phelps has done, Laura Phelps is probably the GOAT as far as equipped lifting and powerlifting, and she's also done great things in CrossFit with her CrossFit conjugate as well. So just a little side note, because kind of reminiscing about some of the West Side times. So again, definitely check out some of the stuff from Louis Simmons if you're not familiar, and you can check out some of our videos on our YouTube channel. Like I said, I think there's a video of Louis Simmons teaching you how to do the chair deadlift and some other things on our YouTube channel as well. That being said, let's kind of recap the training for this past weekend. So last week I had a good deadlift session, so I kind of want to kind of continue to kind of build some momentum. So everything kind of went really well this weekend. I hit similar weights than I did the week prior. I should say the last equip cycle prior. But I felt like it was a better, the depth was overall better overall. I was very, very happy with how my warm-ups, I was getting down pretty deep. This is probably the best standard I've hit these lifts. Again, probably in the past 2 years, and like I said, being 100 pounds lighter, it's pretty darn good. So I hit 750, which would be probably a little bit above or around an opening attempt. Although it didn't feel that great, it moved like a cannon. Sometimes, you when you're a little beat up, sometimes your nervous can play tricks on you and things don't. So that's why it's really important to kind of have the video review as well, because sometimes your feelings can lie to you a little bit. This is also why people like, Chris Duffin and people at the Kabuki Strength and other people and the Squats and Science guys, that's why something like measuring velocity can be good as well. I was actually at a seminar with Jordan Syatt and Joe DeFranco, and for those that don't know, Joe DeFranco is a really, really world-renowned strength coach. Worked with a lot of football players, NFL, combine athletes, and many other great athletes. Most notably trains Triple H and Stephanie McMahon now. And we were talking about using a hand dynamometer for a readiness measure, and we were kind of going back and forth with this. And I think that some of that information is great for the coach to see, but not necessarily always. If you're training yourself, it's fine, obviously. But sometimes some athletes can let some of those measures and the data kind of mess with their head a little bit. And sometimes the data is great, but if the data kind of causes you more stress or kind of puts you in a bad state of mind, that could that's not going to be a good thing either. So I thought that was a really good point. We had a good discussion about using some of the data and things like that, and using some of these tests. So I think it's great for the coach, but sometimes as a coach, you got to kind of also put your game face on. So maybe you kind of take that information in. If it's maybe not a good piece of data, or it's not, maybe the data indicates they're not going to have a good day, you always want to try to salvage the day and do the best you can. And I think sometimes an athlete, so like for me, for example, my goal is to again work up to around 800 pounds on this day. So if I was to take some readiness measure and the readiness measure said I was supposed to have a bad day or back off, it doesn't really help me that much. So just something kind of important to note if you are someone that's very data driven, or you take measures, or you want to experiment with some of these things. I think sometimes as an athlete, if you're supposed to perform on a specific day, or if you have a training cycle that's getting close to a competition, as I talked about before, as you get closer to a competition or a peaking day, or a day that you want to peak, your training flexibility is going to get more narrow and more narrow as you get closer to the contest. Otherwise, if you kind of just take a session off, or you auto-regulate too much, you're going to get thrown off track. But when you're in the off season, you have a lot more flexibility with taking days off, adjusting training load and things like that. But again, sometimes as an athlete, you need to be able to perform when you're sick or tired, or maybe just not in the best mood. So you have to kind of learn strategies to kind of deal with that. So just something to think about. I think it's important because I think sometimes, again, a lot of times the answer lies in the middle, but we can kind of get caught with some of the extremes. But one of my favorite quotes from Joe DeFranco, and he said it again at the seminar, is all your workouts should be, your program should be written in pencil, not pen. So that being said, don't be afraid to auto-regulate, don't be afraid to adjust on the fly based on how things are going. But again, as you get closer to a contest, as I'm getting closer to a contest, the heavy days I have programmed, I made sure I programmed them around the times where I actually have help and the times when my team is here. So whether it might not be optimal, it's optimal for me personally in my schedule, because we have so much traveling coming up. So like I mentioned before, squatted again around a projected opener or slightly above of 750. I like to go to 805 next, which should be a 5-pound PR. And this is the second time I've squatted over 800 successfully during this training cycle, and that's very, very happy. I'm very happy that I'm consistently hitting over 800 again. It took me, like I said, it took me about 2 years to kind of get back up to that point. I've done 800 several times in competition, but I've never done 800 this light. So that's a huge PR for me again. It's building a lot of confidence that I'm hitting that consistently every time. So I'll definitely try, hit around that weight one more time before the contest. And then if I do that, so it's super heavyweight, 308, 275. Yeah, so if I'm successful at hitting 800 pounds in this contest, it'll end up being my 4th weight class I've squatted 800 in. So that'll be a cool little milestone as well. So I'd like to squat 800 and eventually 5 or 6 weight classes when it's all said and done. But one thing at a time. Let's get number 4 first. So that was really good. So then after that, I elected to do a reverse monster mini band set after that. with 850 pounds, and that went up pretty smooth. It was probably maybe a touch higher than the others, but I just kind of felt, like I said, I've been kind of dealing with a little kind of shoulder thing, like I kind of mentioned before. So I just felt a little bop on the bottom, so I might have cut it a little bit shorter, but it still felt like, as far as in the video, I was pretty happy with the standard still, about parallel there. For something that's, again, I'm not going to probably even, if I hit anywhere from like 800 to 820 on a third attempt, that's kind of more realistic anyway. So for me to hit a good standard with 850, which is, again, a monster mini band for an 800-pound squatter, it's really not that substantial of help. So that was a good overload, and I was very happy with how that went. As I've mentioned in some previous videos, I've been using some of my Squat Buddy, some of the Spud Inc. Squat Buddy for some of my down sets, and I did 2 sets of 5 reps with 510, with 510 pounds, just for some additional work. And then I did some additional belt squatting work with around, I guess it would be around 385 or so, just counting the carriage or the frame as 45-pound bar. That's typically what we do. I did some belt squatting work. I did the belt squatting work a little bit closer stance, just because I've been doing a lot of the wider stance stuff, and then I did like a little burnout set of 8. So after I did a couple sets of 8 at 385, I did a set of 8 with 315, a little bit wider, just to kind of work my hips a little bit more. I plan on doing some benching today and a little deadlifting before I get to the Arnold. And hopefully we'll get some updates depending on, whether it's filmed with a potato or not. We'll definitely get some updates, just let you know how the team did. As a side note, I was really happy with how our team did. We had Jose Martinez also hit a PR double, 500 pounds in sleeves. So I'm really excited for him. He's getting ready for his next meet in wraps, so he's building up his kind of base strength. And then we had Peter, who's getting ready for his first RPS competition. Did 500 pounds for a triple, which is his ultimate goal for the contest, is to hit 500 pounds. So he did 500-pound reverse band triple. And then we had the doctor, James Davis, also hit a 440, 200-kilogram reverse band, which is, I believe, the most weight he's had on his back. So he had a good day. So we had a good day with the crew. Peter's a little bit newer, and then Jose and James have been with us for a while, so it was cool to kind of lift with my friends and stuff. And we also had our deadlift contest this weekend. We had 5 ladies pull over 300 pounds, lots of PRs. A lot of girls hit their first 3-plate deadlift for the first time. So that was really exciting to see as well. So we had a really good weekend overall. It was a really great kind of like team building experience with these little contests. Our next contest, for those that are interested in the Long Island area, is June 15th. It's our summer showdown meet. We have like a tag team total division, so if you want to do it with 2 buddies, one person's squat will count, one person's bench press will count, and one person's deadlift will count for a tag team total, so pretty cool. Something a little bit different. We always try to encourage the team aspect here at Gaglione Strength, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I kind of, not that I encourage or like, but with the geared lifting and the raw with wraps lifting, it takes more of a team effort, whereas with the sleeve stuff, you can kind of get away with, especially if you're a bench only or a deadlift only or a push-pull guy. When you start squatting in wraps or squatting in a suit, benching in a shirt, it definitely requires a team effort. So as much as I also do think it's kind of fun, the technical side of things, it kind of forces you to actually ask for help and get help a little bit. And I do think there's some value in that, especially, like I said, me being a very stubborn person. Sometimes it's been hard and still is hard for me to ask for help. So I think it's just kind of forces you to kind of do things together a little bit more. Versus some of the stuff that you do. Now, there's nothing wrong with training alone, but in my opinion, I just think for sustainability, that team aspect is so important, the community aspect is so important. And I don't just mean commenting on someone's Instagram and things like that. I mean like true, actual team community support in real life, IRL. So I think it's just a lot sweeter when you really kind of do things together and you kind of train together. Now, I know that's not always possible with people, but it's just something I always want to kind of continue to support and preach. I do think even if it's a couple of buddies, it's 2 or 3 people, or you have a bigger team like ours, I do think it makes things a lot more special, and I'm very grateful to have the team behind me, our staff and everybody else. So we got some updates coming up. Bench and Benny's I'm giving him the car key, so to speak, and giving him the reins on my bench training, so that'll be interesting. We'll get some videos on that. So if you guys aren't familiar, Coach Ben is our kind of head coach here. And he's kind of our resident bench specialist. He's benched over 700 pounds in competition. in equipment. So I'm that's been my least consistent lift, so hopefully I'm looking forward to get a little bit more consistent in my bench training, because obviously the squats and deadlifts have been going fantastic. And if I can nail a good bench, I should be on my way to actually hitting an all-time PR total at an all-time low body weight, which would be pretty darn cool if you ask me. So very excited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate the support. Definitely check out the links below. If the video helps you, please share it. Please subscribe if you want future content. And thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.